Good evening, all, and welcome to our Prayas Let's Learn Together web classes. I'm Dr. Joyesh Upendra Kumar, and today we'll be dealing with uh, we'll be starting a series of classes on MRI physics, short classes, and the first of one will be on the basic terminologies and what is something called as NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance. Before we actually go on to understand various sequences and how MRI works, we need to know some certain basic terms. The first term we need to understand in MRI, that is magnetic resonance imaging, is what is a magnet. A magnet is an object that produces a magnetic field. It's as simple as that. Magnetic field is a force that pulls on other ferromagnetic materials like iron, nickel, and cobalt. So what is ferromagnetic? Which can be magnetized or called ferromagnetic, and iron, nickel, and cobalt are such items. And what exactly happens is when you place a piece of iron in the vicinity of a magnet, it gets attracted towards the magnet because there is a magnetic field around the magnet which is attracting it. So that is what is magnetic field. So this is how it works. Magnetic field is not visible to us, but it is in the form, we can imagine it in the form of lines from one pole to the other. Okay. And this is an example of an MRI magnet in which the patient is lying down, the bore of the magnet, and there are lines within, as we can see, and also lines outside the bore of the magnet. And what we can understand is here in the center of the bore, it is around 15,000 gauss, and outside it is around 5 gauss. So what is this gauss? We'll understand, but just by the numbers, we can see that these lines are more inside the bore rather than outside. And there is a rapid decline of the number of lines outside. So that is, the magnetic field rapidly reduces with outside the magnetic bore. We'll understand this, and we also see the direction of orientation of these lines within the bar. Okay, so either they are from the foot to end or the head, foot to head or head to foot, and this axis is called the z-axis. The axis along the bore of the magnet in which the patient is positioned is called the z-axis of the magnet, and the magnetic field that is applied along the z-axis is called B naught, or the main magnetic field. And this is how it works. Again, the patient is placed within the bore of the magnet along the z-axis, and once the B naught, a magnetic field is applied along this axis, the protons in our body try to orient along the z-axis itself. So this is what is called B naught magnetic field. After knowing what is a magnet, now what is a magnetic field? So it is a region around the magnet where a moving charge experiences a force, like the iron does, a charged particle like an electron or a proton, when it comes within the magnetic field, it experiences a certain force, like what happens when a patient is positioned within the MRI gantry, MRI bore. He enters the MRI bore, the protons in his body try to orient along the main magnetic field. So that is what is a magnetic field. And magnetic flux represents the strength or the quantity of the magnetic lines produced by the magnet. So maybe roughly we can understand that the number of lines is what represents magnetic flux. So why do we have to know what is a magnetic flux? Because we have to understand what is this Tesla. Okay, we keep talking about 0.4 Tesla, 1.53 Tesla magnets. So we need to understand what is Tesla. For that, we need to understand what is magnetic flux. So magnetic flux is generally number of magnetic field lines passing through a given surface, and it is measured in terms of Weber. And number of lines, number of magnetic lines passing perpendicular through a unit area is what is called as magnetic flux density. The number of magnetic lines passing through a unit area in the perpendicular direction is called as magnetic flux density. And magnetic flux density can be measured, is the unit of measurement of magnetic flux density is Gauss or Tesla. So to understand what is Gauss, let's try to understand the geomagnetic, by using an example of geomagnetic strength. What is a geomagnetic strength? It is the strength of the Earth's magnet. Something interesting about a magnet in the Earth itself. Okay, so we all know that Earth has a magnetic property, but interesting thing is there are two axes to the Earth. Okay, one is the geographical axis, which just passes from the North Pole, geographical North Pole, to the geographical South Pole, and there is a magnetic axis. If we can imagine this, can be easily represented by a magnet kept in the center of the Earth, with the south facing the north geographical pole with a slight tilt, and the north is more towards the north magnetic pole is facing more towards the south geographical pole. And there is so the magnetic north of the Earth comes somewhere away from the geographical north, and similarly the magnetic south also. This is the magnetic south. It is also away from the geographic south, and this axis, it is around 10 degrees to each other. Okay, these axes, and at the surface of the Earth, that is where we live, with the magnetic field's flux density, the strength is 0.4 to 0.6 Gauss. Okay, so earlier image we saw, in the bore of the magnet it was 15,000 Gauss, and outside it was 5 Gauss, and here on the surface of the Earth we are talking about 0.4 to 0.6 Gauss strength. So you can imagine how weak a magnet Earth is, but we need to understand that inside the Earth the magnetic strength is fairly large, but on the surface it is around 0.4 to 0.6 Gauss. And this guy is important when we talk about Gauss. He is Carl Friedrich Gauss. Carl Friedrich Gauss, who was a mathematician and who worked in the field of magnetism, and that is why his name has been kept to represent magnetic flux density. However, so Gauss is a unit of magnetic flux density, but Tesla is the one that is used, and it is the SI unit of magnetic flux density. So 1 Tesla is 10,000 Gauss. So but remember this term. And Tesla is named after this guy, Nikola Tesla, who was a mechanical and electrical engineer, and who was worked in the next few terms are magnetic dipole and magnetic moment. A magnetic dipole means a north pole and a south pole separated by a small distance. If you can imagine a bar magnet, there will be a north pole and a south pole separated by the shaft of the magnet. So that is what is called magnetic dipole. And the magnetic dipole moment is the force or the torque that any object coming within the vicinity of the magnet or within the magnetic field experiences. Like if you position an iron particle or a cobalt or a nickel, whatever the ferromagnetic substances within the magnetic field, they tend to get attracted, or at least they tend to get rotated. And just similarly in magnetic resonance imaging, what happens is a proton, which acts as a magnetic dipole or a magnet itself, when it comes within the magnetic field of the main magnetic field, it tries to align, it tries to change the direction of its alignment. So that is what is called magnetic dipole moment. It's the measure, the strength of the magnet trying to change the direction of the object. So in this diagram, we can see that this is again a depiction of the Earth. The Earth in this particular image is spinning, okay? And the spin of the Earth is what causes the days. It's also called rotation, the days and the nights it causes. And we also know the Earth has another motion, that is the revolution around the sun. Okay, the spin is when it's just rotating along a fixed axis. A revolution is it is moving around another particular reference point. And here we see a third rotation, right? This is what is called precession. So if you can imagine, this red line represents the geographical axis. Okay, this red line, the geographical north, and here the geographical south, and it is spinning around the axis. And also this geographical axis itself is changing every time direction, right? So you can see this geographical axis. So it is also, it's in a circular motion, And this is what is called precession. It is this type of wobbling. Wobbling movement is what we call precession. And interesting fact is that NASA has revealed that the precession the Earth takes for one precession, it's almost 26,000 years. So similarly, the protons within our body also precess. Okay, so that is what we need to understand. Here, the first image, it is an electron, a charged particle. Again, whenever a charged particle is spinning, it will have a magnetism around it. There is a magnetic field around it. So in MRI, we are specifically talking in terms of protons, right? As charged particles, the positively charged proton particles, when they are spinning, they will have magnetic field around them. And the magnetic field, each proton or an electron spinning can be represented like this bar magnet. The magnetic field lines will be something like this. And here again, we can see this proton is not only spinning or rotating, it is also showing a wobbling sort of a movement, pendular movement, right? In another circular fashion. So this is what is called precession. And the frequency at which the proton precesses, it's called Larmor frequency, or a precessional frequency, also called as resonant frequency. So this precessional frequency is determined by three things, okay? And these are important things to know. One is what is the nucleus it is a part of, okay? So the proton which is precessing, it is part of which particular nucleus, like is it a hydrogen nucleus or a carbon nucleus or a fluorine nucleus, okay? That matters. So basically, what are the number of protons and neutrons around it? The second one is the field strength, the applied field strength, external field. Is it 1 Tesla, 1.5 Tesla, 3 Tesla? So the precessional frequency changes with the field strength also. And the third one is molecular structure. So if the precessing proton of the hydrogen molecule is it a part of water, or is it a part of carbohydrate, is it a part of protein, air, right? So where does it belong? So these are the three things the precessional frequency depends on. One is the nucleus itself, what is the composition of the nucleus. The second one is the field strength. The third one is the molecular structure. So by this we can just try to imagine like a hydrogen proton is precessing at different frequencies in different molecules of our body, and that is what actually we are studying. Okay, so if the proton is precessing of one particular frequency, it's a fat, it's likely to be a component of fat. If it is precessing at a slightly different frequency, it is likely to be water. Okay, so this small changes in precessional frequencies is what will give us the magnetic resonance imaging values. So the precessional frequency is a product of gyromagnetic ratio and applied magnetic field. Gyromagnetic ratio is a constant for one particular nucleus. So it's a constant for every nucleus has a particular gyromagnetic ratio. So it can be easily defined as, for example, here we are seeing that hydrogen proton has a Larmor frequency at 1 Tesla of 42 megahertz. So the Larmor frequency, it's easily defined as the Larmor frequency at 1 Tesla, okay? So at 1 Tesla, if it is 42 megahertz, that is the gyromagnetic ratio of the proton in the hydrogen. So similar, so at 1 point, if it is for 3 Tesla, you have to just multiply this by 3, the applied magnetic field will be 3 and gyromagnetic ratio will be the same, that is 42, and you'll get a new precessional frequency value. Similarly, lithium, carbon, fluorine, sodium, they all have different, the protons in them have different frequencies, Larmor frequencies at the same magnetic flux density. So these are important values to remember. The precessional frequency of hydrogen proton at 1 Tesla, that is the gyromagnetic ratio, is 42.5 megahertz. At 1.5 Tesla, the precessional frequency is 63.86 megahertz, and at 3 Tesla, it is 127. So the next concept that we have to understand, these three was given by these three people, mainly Isidore Rabi. Yeah, he was the one who actually described the concept called nuclear magnetic resonance. So in MRI, the second term The second term is resonance. So magnetic resonance. So resonance. So now we have to understand what is this resonance. And all of the three, all three of them got Nobel for their achievements in this field of nuclear magnetic resonance. Resonance is any material can absorb or radiate radio frequency radiation at a particular frequency. Okay, so if you have to energize a spinning a processing proton, like if a proton is processing at 43 megahertz, so the frequency that you have to give to that proton to change its direction should match, that is, it should also be somewhere similar to 43 megahertz at 1 Tesla. So that is what is resonance. It's matching the frequencies. Okay, so it's like a radio receiver transmitter. And in our case, as we are dealing with protons, it is called nuclear resonance. Okay, nuclear magnetic resonance. And so some molecules can be easily, some atoms can be easily magnetized if they have odd numbers, right? Odd numbered nuclei can be easily magnetized. And so that is what, that is why only certain atoms are used for magnetic resonance imaging. What we use is principally hydrogen protons. Similarly, phosphorus imaging is also there, but it is in less vogue. But hydrogen is the most widely used. So what happens is, if there is odd mass number is the number of, it's the sum of the protons and neutrons in the nucleus, right? So if there is odd mass numbers, that means there is a proton excess. When there is a proton excess, there is no cancellation of the precisions. If in the even number, what happens? Even mass numbers, the precisions of both neutrons and protons get cancelled with each other. But in odd numbers, there is at least one or two balance protons that keep precessing, and that is what gives rise to the magnetic moment. So to explain further what is resonance, let's imagine that we all know that originally when there is a main magnetic field applied, that is the B naught, or protons, they are all aligned along the Z axis. So in MRI, what we do is we try to tilt the axis of precision of these protons to another axis by a particular angle or even up to 90 degrees. So how can this be done? What we need to do is we need to give energy in those particular angles, right? So this is done through using RF pulses. Okay, RF pulses, radio frequency pulses. So in this, what we need to understand, see this number. Okay, the pulses that we are giving also should be of the same frequency as the precessional frequency of the hydrogen protons. Like here we are using a 63.85 megahertz. So if we give a RF pulse along y-axis of the same frequency, these protons which are processing along the z-axis will come to y-axis. Okay, at least till the duration of the RF pulse. If this frequency doesn't match, if you are giving a lesser or a higher frequency than this, then unlikely that all the protons will be able to come to the y-axis. So that is what is called frequency matching. The frequency of the RF pulse should match the precessional frequency of the protons. So that is what is called resonance, the matching of frequencies. And with this, we complete today's class. It was a short class, and we will continue on will step by step. And this was a very basic class. I hope you people could. It was a very basic class, and you could understand. And definitely, it would have been a revision to many of you. And these are some of the references. And I would like to thank all of you for watching this. Thank you so much.